Hello, it's the Queen. Welcome back to another video on the channel. I am so sorry that I haven't been posting in a while. So the reason why is because I was sick with the flu and I couldn't do anything. Yay. So I don't know when I said I was gonna get the Queen was out, but because I was sick, I could not record. My voice was gone. I had a fever for 6 days without breaking. It turns out I also had an ear infection while that was happening, so that's why the fever wouldn't break. And I had to take amoxicillin for 10 days, and that ended yesterday, thank God. So I am fully back to normal. So today we're continuing on with the series where I go into each full drama character, my thoughts on them, where they would rank if I was ranking them, and also the changes I make with them in my personal fan fictions, which I probably will not read out loud until I know I'm comfortable with it. So, yeah. Today we're talking about the most tragic character in total drama history. We're talking about Ezekiel today, and next up in this series is Jeff, uh, which I'm excited for because I really like him. But today we're talking about Ezekiel, and oh my god, what were the writers thinking when they were writing this character? Because oh no, no. So, yeah, before we get into today's video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below on what you think about Ezekiel, and comment down below what would you like to see in part 2 of Queen of What Ifs, which I'll probably be able to record at this Saturday. It because I said this before in my update video disgusting. Queen of What Ifs, go watch that. I'll link it down below. I said that there was a weird issue where I was talking, but yet my mouth wasn't lining up with what I was talking about, which is so incredibly weird. So, this is the third time I'm gonna be re-recording this. I'm probably gonna do some final editing again. It's perfect in my opinion. I just want to make sure there's no grammatical errors. So, yeah. With that out of the way, let's get into Ezekiel's mini introductory. So I get my information from the Total Drama fandom. So here's how I do it. Open up a new tab and search up Total Drama fandom. You should be able to click on it. You should be able to see like the options your browser comes up with. Click Total Drama Wiki. Click on it, and then you'll be directed to the opening page, and you'll be able to scroll down and see the news and events, and you'll also be able to scroll down and see all the characters and all the seasons and stuff like that. So, yeah, let's get into Ezekiel's mini introduction. Ezekiel was the camper on Total Drama Island as a member of the Killer Bass. He did not qualify for Total Drama action, but appeared on the season's Aftermath show as a member of the Peanut Gallery. He was contested on Total Drama World Tour as a member of Team Victory. However, after his elimination, he became a stowaway aboard Total Drama Jumbo Jet, making various cameo appearances around the inside of the plane throughout the rest of the season. He was seen with the other original contestants on a yacht in the first episode of Total Drama Revenge of the Island on a yacht. So, and he later had cameo appearances in the episodes A Mine is a Terrible Thing to Waste, The Enchanted Frankenforest, and Brave vs. Brawn, The Ultimate Showdown. He later reappeared in Total Drama All Stars, making appearances in the episodes Heroes vs. Villains and Zeke and Yeek Shall Find. Here is what Ezekiel looks like in his human form. So, in his human form, Ezekiel is a male with brown hair and he's wearing a beanie. He's wearing a green hoodie with a white shirt underneath it, jeans and green sneakers. And later on in Total Drama World Tour, he becomes feral. And here's what he looks like in his feral form. In his feral form, his clothes are tattered. He doesn't have shoes. He lost all his hair. There's a bite on his ear, which is so crazy to me. And he now has strands of his hair that's dangling from his head. Do I even need to explain how wild this is? No. So Ezekiel, like I said, is a male. He has brown hair and gray eyes, and his labeled is the homeschool guy, and he was in 37 episodes. In Total Drama Island 2007, he was on the Killer Bass, and this and he was eliminated in the second episode, Not So Happy Campers Part 2, and he was 22nd place. The first camper ever to be eliminated in Total Drama history, and this causes the legendary running gag of Ezekiel getting voted off first every single time he competed. He does not compete in Total Drama Action, and he is a part of the Peanut Gallery for that season. In Total Drama World Tour, he was placed on the floppiest team ever to exist, called Team Victory. He was eliminated in the second episode yet again, Walk Like an Egyptian Part 2, and he was 18th place. And he does not compete ever since, which is absolutely insane. Underneath his additional information, he was attracted to Anna Maria, and he was also attracted to Bridget, but this was one sided on his side of things. He only has one friend, and that is Anna Maria on his side of things. And he is enemies with Alejandro, Bridget, but this is on her side, Cameron, Courtney, Duncan, Eva, Gwen, Harold, Heather, Katie, Lightning, Sadie, and Zoe. In his family, he has his parents, and he is also voiced by Peter Oldring, the same voice actor who voiced Cody. He also voices another character that we're going to get into later on in the series. Cody's video is in the Total Drama playlist, along with the other videos and the other characters I covered, and so will Ezekiel's video. So yeah, let's get into Ezekiel's personality. Ezekiel is a naive country boy who was homeschooled at his farm and came with disgusting habits such as picking his nose in front of others. His lack of interaction with other kids has left him with incredibly poor social skills and a tendency to say and do things that rub people the wrong way, even if his intentions may be good. Ezekiel also has some rather warped viewpoints on life, mostly due to his parents. He initially believes that women are inferior to men and also seems to value money over his relationships. No, no. So, let's move on. However, it appears that Ezekiel is simply repeating what his parents told him, that these are not his own ideas. Later in the series, he is seen interacting with several of the show's female contestants with no apparent animosity. Ezekiel has the dubious distinction of being the first contestant ever voted off in the show's history. When he returns as a contestant in Total Drama World Tour, he becomes extremely determined to redeem himself for his early elimination in season 1 and his failure to compete at all in season 2. Unfortunately, his bad luck continues and he is voted off first yet again. Humiliated and angry at his former contestants, Ezekiel refuses to accept his fate and becomes a stowaway in the Total Drama Jumbo Jet, living in the cargo hold for the entirety of the season up until the play's destruction in the episode on Drumheller. Over time, this has a drastic effect on his humanity and his sanity, greatly altering his physical appearance into a green, clawed, bald, and deformed creature who is no longer capable of speaking and attacks everybody who considers a threat, especially Chris. That is a lot, and we're not even done. What the heck? I'm actually gonna do this here. The way I write Ezekiel in my fanfic covering Total Drama World Tour, it is nowhere near this crazy. Nowhere near. And I'm going to explain this when we get to World Tour. But just so you know, I do not opt him to go feral at all. The feral thing does not happen, and instead I put Izzy in his place, except she's not gonna go feral. She's just crazy. I put Izzy in Ezekiel's place, so yeah. But this is a this was crazy. This was wild. What were the writers thinking? Let's get into Ezekiel's journey throughout Total Drama Island. Immediately upon his arrival in Not So Happy Cameras Part 1, Ezekiel makes a strange first impression by answering Chris with "What's up?" with "I think I see a bird," thinking it was a literal question. Chris acknowledges the fact that Ezekiel has been homeschooled all his life, which explains his lack of real world knowledge and social skills. Chris advises Ezekiel to not say too much and not to get voted off too early. Ezekiel is selected to be on the killer bass. Ezekiel does well in the first challenge and not to happy campers part 2, although he hits a rock while jumping off the 1,000-foot cliff. However, he is seen landing in the safe zone. After his team loses, Ezekiel unintentionally sets himself up as a target by questioning how his team lost since the other team had more girls. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. Bye.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Okay. Do I even need to say it? Mm-mm. Do I even need to say it? No. This upsets the females on his team, especially Eva and Bridget.
What was the reason? What was the reason? What was the reason?
I just explained the reason.
What was the reason, bitch?
I don't need to explain myself to you. And
What
he
was
said,
the reason?
Dre tries to calm girls down, but Ezekiel angers them further by saying that men are also smarter than women. Ah! This eventually seals Ezekiel's fate as the first person to be eliminated on Total Drama, sparing Courtney. While Chris admits that he isn't surprised to see Ezekiel eliminated, he believes that the main reason was because of his nose picking habit.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop you fucking lying.
Yeah, sure. Ezekiel is not seen again until much later at Play a Day Losers in Hot Camp Church, now portraying a rapper with a gangster like personality. It seems that fit with some of the other campers. He is also seen trying to get close to Bridget several times when they're both in the hot tub. Finally gives up after she blocks him on the head. When Courtney complains about her elimination after she was voted off by Harold rigging the votes, I mentioned this in my Courtney video. Ezekiel tries to calm her down, only for her to beat her with a lamppost. Dang, I don't remember that happening. I gotta rewatch Children Island. It's been a while. Dang. Ezekiel, with all the other previously eliminated contestants, appears in the very last episode, really. He chooses to side with Owen from the beginning, even before he announces the party that he's going to hold if he wins. When Owen wins in his ending, he hugs both Harold and Ezekiel by the neck. In Total Drama Island, Ezekiel is partnered with Lindsay and Beth under the condition of him treating them with respect. At one point, he attempts to tell the girls that he had found a case, though they ignore him as they are too busy talking to each other. When Lindsay is able to pinpoint the case's new location, Ezekiel compliments her and stops being sexist. Near the end of the episode, Ezekiel was covered by Justin's parachute, causing him to fail to reach the dock in time and thus ineligible to compete on Total Drum action like Beth and Lindsay. And that's it for him. That's very, very rough, and it's only gonna get worse for him. Stay tuned. Just stay tuned. Oh God, I feel bad. I feel so bad for Ezekiel. Justice for Ezekiel. If this is not a hashtag already, I'm starting a new hashtag. Hashtag Justice for Ezekiel. Comment down below. Hashtag Justice for Ezekiel. Thank you. Let's get into his very brief journey throughout Total Drama Action. Ezekiel is shown to be a commentator slash spectator on the talk show Total Drama Aftermath and the peanut gallery of rejected losers. Ezekiel does very little aside from reacting to the events of the show. However, in the aftermath too, he claps in agreement to Jeff's statements about money being more important than having integrity. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh no, no. Let me calm down. Let me calm down. Now we got the time skip to where it's a year later. In Celebrity Man That's Told Drama Action Reunion Special, Ezekiel attempts to show up his new rapper persona while being interviewed by Celebrity Manhunt. As he attempts to speak in slang, he gets tangled up in the chain he's wearing and falls over. His bull, seemingly attracted to the sound of his chain, kisses him. What? I need to rewatch some of these episodes. What the heck? After the doors to the Gemmy Awards are closed, Duncan believes that he is still able to survive the sweet to the streets, which Ezekiel claims he could too as he makes a statement. But as he makes the statement, a hobo steals his wallet while he is not looking. Ezekiel joins the others by chasing the 12 drummer dirtbags and remains with the bus while Jeff looks for help. After being rescued by Chris, Ezekiel is among those who qualify for season 3. In his first ever confessional, I think this is his only confessional too. Is it? Is it? I think that's his only confessional. In his first ever confessional, Ezekiel and his rapper persona attempts to celebrate on being with another season by rapping, but ended up falling out the chair. And I feel, and this is the most and now let's get into his journey for his whole drum world tour, which is the most prominent Ezekiel has ever been in a season. Ezekiel returns to the competition much more confident than before, more ready to redeem himself for coming in last in Total Drama Island. However, he also comes across as more annoying to the other contestants, with Chris in particular beginning to develop a special amount of hatred towards him rather than quickly. Eventually, when Chris is constantly being interrupted by Ezekiel about how he won't get eliminated while he is explaining the elimination procedures, Ezekiel is thrown out the plane, with Chris saying that he's officially eliminated from the competition. I did not do this. I did not do this. I did still have Ezekiel do his whole rapper bit. Is my most recent fan fiction of this, but it really doesn't last long. And Ezekiel is not thrown out the plane. Instead, Chris throws out an intern. So, yeah. However, right before the plane manages to take off, Ezekiel gets back into the plane, managing to get into a singing line. Manages to get in a singing line in the first song, "Come Fly with Us," where he emerges out of the one luggage badge, and sings. I'll probably, if I can probably put this in, I'm gonna put the line he said. He's singing this. He ate hands down. Ezekiel did not sneak in the plane. He did not get thrown out the plane. I still had him sing his line. It's just I changed it slightly. I just changed it slightly, so he then reappears right before the first challenge begins. Even though Chris said he was still eliminated, he allows him to participate in the challenge. He is the last one to cross the finish line after Izzy unknowingly carries him out the pyramid. Chris still considers him eliminated initially, but because Duncan quit the competition, he is allowed to be on Team 1 after begging Chris to stay. Again, this did not happen. He went in my fiction. Everyone goes in the pyramid instead of like half of them going over, while the other half goes through the pyramid. All of them go into the pyramid. All of them get different paths. Da, 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 da. Ezekiel goes with Izzy, Owen, Noah, Alejandro, and Tyler. So yeah. And Tyler actually asks him, "Hey, are you still sexist?" He's like, "No, I'm not." Why are you asking me? And Tyler was like, I was just asking. I was just asking. Chill. Basically. Which is also kind of funny because they're, which is also kind of funny. So yeah. During the song 11 Time in episode 2, his offbeat line rendered the purpose of the song useless, causing the scarabs to attack the cast. While Ezekiel doesn't do too much during the first part of the challenge, during the reprise of Loving Time called Rowing Time, Harold says that the best way to defeat a crocodile is to bop it on the nose. Ezekiel follows Harold's advice in an effort to help his team, but the crocodile ends up eating the stick that they got as a reward instead. Easy does this instead of Ezekiel because I needed him for plot reasons, and I'll tell you later. This causes Team Victory to lose, and despite his newly found confidence in being allowed another chance, Ezekiel once again is the first one voted off in Walk Like an Egyptian Part 2. After after he is thrown off, he grabs onto the plane's tail wing, saying that he isn't going anywhere in the competition it says. And again, Izzy takes his spot. How this works is Izzy lost the stick, and before the vote, Izzy actually suggests that they all vote off Ezekiel because he was the first one eliminated the last time they all competed together. Ezekiel is shocked by this, and Lashana actually defends Ezekiel by saying, Ezekiel didn't even do anything for once, and you're the one who caused us to lose by losing the stick. And everyone agrees with Lashana, and this causes Izzy to get voted off. It seems like Ezekiel's gonna get thrown off at getting kicked off at first until Chris announces the final vote, and it is Ezekiel. He says, "Huh? Ezekiel?" Because Ezekiel was saved, and he is happy that he was saved for once. Immediately after he jumps up and says, "Yes," he says, "Ooh, sorry, Izzy," because Izzy is kicked off, and Izzy takes his place. In Super Happy Crazy Fun Time, Japan reveals that Ezekiel has managed to get back onto the plane after the events of the previous episode. And starting from here, Ezekiel appears occasionally in the background. While Team Amazon is looking for props for their commercial, they see Ezekiel in the background who then retreats behind the crates, freaking them out.
Today. Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that?
Anything you can do, I can do better shows him watching two rats retreat from a small trapdoor within the plane. Footage from Aftermath 1, Bridget Over Troubled Water, in their Total Drama Fugitive section that shows that Owen had seen Ezekiel hanging from upside down the plane's wing very briefly, and Chris saw shadows coming from the steam in his hot tub. But when we grabbed the baseball bat, he disappeared into the steam. Ezekiel might be OP. He might be OP. He might be teleporting everywhere from the plane. He might be OP. He might be a wizard. He might be a wizard. I'm joking. Probably not. After not appearing for a while, Ezekiel reappears in New Kids on the Block twice. The first is when after Chef pushes Heather out of the plane, Ezekiel appears behind the crates. The exclusive clip after the episode also features Owen pulling him out of a pot in Newfoundland. After they both scream, Owen closes the pot lid. I'll link the exclusive clips down below. During Team Victory's last elimination ceremony in the following episode, Jamaican Me Sweat, Ezekiel is present at their ceremony, albeit behind an umbrella. The Total Drama Fugitive segment of Aftermath 2 Revenge the Telethon shows Ezekiel pouncing on a mouse where he runs up to the camera. In a remastered version of Slap Slap Revolution, Ezekiel is hiding on top boxes on in the cargo hold just before the contestants are dropped out of the plane. Apparently being discovered by Chef Hatchet in the cargo hold, Ezekiel takes the role of Jack the Ripper during the challenge in IC London, with the promise that if he could capture all the contestants, he would be let back onto the competition. He manages to catch Alejandro before the challenge begins, as well as Sierra, Cody, Tyler, and Heather during it. However, once he corners Noah, he is taken down by guard dogs that Owen releases on him. In my story, this chapter, Eva is the one who is the Jack the Ripper figure, since Ezekiel is still there at that point. And then he along with Noah, Gwen, and Bridget, cause and I'm gonna explain this in Gwen's video coming up. But Gwen was switched onto the other team after a fight with Courtney in my fanfics. A physical fight? Need I a physical fight actually. So she ends up getting switched on to Team Victory. And they go to the punk club, and instead of Duncan being the one they catch, Izzy's the one they catch, and she is in a band called the Crazy Girl. So basically, we got a whole switch here. Duncan did not quit. He's still there at this point. He was just captured by Eva. When Chris reveals that he was Jack the Ripper, he is shown to have several changes to his appearance, namely bloodshot eyes, green skin, a chipped off ear, disheveled teeth, and more hair sticking out behind his head. He also appears unable to speak English, only making animal noises. For failing to capture all the contestants, Ezekiel is thrown out of the plane by Chef Hatchet, but he manages to grab onto the wheel and eventually sneak back into the plane. Oh my god. And after I See London, Ezekiel's appearances are more frequent and genuinely more noticeable. When Chris is introducing the challenge and Reese's Pieces, Ezekiel appears at a table under a trapdoor briefly. He is shown in a co-pilot seat at the start of the X-Files when the aliens start attacking the plane, and he prevents the landing gear from being deployed, and picnic at Hanging Door. He is seen in a cargo hold in both Sweet and Sour and Niagara Brawls, of him briefly appearing behind a set of crates while Alejandro and Heather are conversing down there, and in the former, stealing cheese from a mouse at the start of the latter. He is almost spotted, but since all the contestants were unconscious, he manages to escape. While Ezekiel is seen at the beginning of Chinese Fake Out trying to steal some of the cake Duncan and Courtney won in the previous challenge, nobody knows he's on the plane until his cover is blown at the end of the episode when Blatantly reveals that Ezekiel is still on the plane. As a result, Ezekiel is once again used as part of a challenge in African Lion Safari. Ezekiel is now shown to have lost his toque, shoes, which reveals that his feet have become free-toed and clawed, and all but a few long strands of his hair. In addition, his pupils have become smaller and his teeth are even more disheveled than before. After unintentionally rescuing Alejandro and Duncan from quicksand, he doesn't appear again until Alejandro covers Duncan in Serengeti bloodberries, which I'm gonna say, Serengeti bloodberries in the show, they aren't blood, but they look and smell like blood, which is kind of wild. Which causes Ezekiel to emerge from the water and attack Duncan. He actually scratches his chest and it kind of reveals like a mark on Duncan's chest, and then he tackles him and attacks him. After getting tranquilized, Chris tries to get out of the interval as fast as possible to make sure Ezekiel doesn't get back on the plane, but he still manages to get back into the plane from the top. Returning to his cameo appearances, he is shown behind a curtain in a comedy class in the next episode, Rapafui. Is that the next episode? Yep, we're good. Ezekiel is among the animals that escaped the plane's destruction in All Drum Heller, which is Sierra. She it was Cody's birthday in that episode, and Sierra made Cody a cake with sparklers on the top, and since there was oil because they had to find oil in the challenge, there was a puddle of oil near the plane, and because of the sparklers, the plane exploded and Sierra was kicked off. I'll explain that in Sierra's video. And Ezekiel escaped. So after he escapes, he is placed into a crate to be transferred to Mexico. Alejandro agrees to let him out if he behaves, with Alejandro describing him as a little brother to the conductor. After unleashing Ezekiel on Heather, he vanishes for a while until Alejandro is pushed up the tray where he prepares to attack her. Despite Heather's efforts, he manages to knock her out the plane window. After the events of the episode, he makes his way towards Hawaii knowing that the money is there, eventually getting to the top of the volcano when the winner of the season is revealed. In Alejandro's ending, he pushes Heather out of the way and attacks Chris for being so cruel to him in the season. And he yanks the money out, depending on who. And then he falls into the volcano. I'm gonna say this. He attacks Chris and Alejandro's ending, and then depending on which ending you watch, in Alejandro's ending, he attacks Chris, and then in Heather's ending, he attacks Heather. Heather. He manages to steal the case from them, but he falls into the lava, submerging with the case still in his hand. Huh? Like Alejandro, I want to know how Ezekiel survived that. He fell into the lava and he was burnt to a crisp, burnt alive. And same with Alejandro. How did they both survive that? I want to know now. Whew, let me calm down. Let me calm down. Whew, let me calm down. Let me calm down. Ezekiel is shown to have survived this ordeal, however, when he is launched from the volcano into Chris's and Chef's boat, which caused it to sink, and that is it for him. So, unlike Ezekiel, like I said before, I did not opt for this to happen. Ezekiel actually becomes friends with Bridget. He actually is also sort of friends with Lindsay, Tyler, Gwen, and Duncan. But he actually sees two certain contestants kissing in the confessional. It's not Gwen and Duncan. It's someone else. And Tyler's eliminated really early on in my story, so he's the one who blabs about it, and he ends up quitting in Grease's pieces, and he has a sweet goodbye with Bridget. He also inadvertently causes someone to get voted out, and he doesn't want to tell Bridget because they just became friends, and because Bridget doesn't like a certain someone, Alejandro, he does not want to tell her, but this is revealed to Bridget in Jamaica Me Sweat, which causes a rift until Icy London. So yeah, that's basically what I do with Ezekiel. He doesn't become feral. He actually has a solid arc. No, he actually has a happy ending. Now we got his cameos in Total Drama, Revenge of the Island, Total Drama All Stars, and Total Drama Presents The Ridiculous Race. Who? In Bigger Battle Brutal, Ezekiel appears on a yacht with other veterans still in his deranged girl form. He is chained up to a crouching on the cloud yacht, the wind blowing a little hair he has left, and his tongue hanging out wildly like a dog. He has a prominent role in the episode A Mind is a Terrible Thing to Waste. Ezekiel appears in A Mind as king of the Munich Gophers. Finding Anne Maria attractive, he kidnaps her and takes her back to his lair where he presents her with various gifts, including the prize money from the last season, which had been reduced to ash. He eventually gives her a massive diamond, which she believes is real and thus worth much more than $1 million. Later, Ezekiel attacks Lightning when he tries to retrieve the golden statues on his throne. Lightning, however, eventually fought back and strapped his backpack and taking a bomb onto Ezekiel before kicking him down a tunnel. Shortly afterward, the mine was destroyed in the ensuing explosions, trapping Ezekiel, who was presumably killed, and he was still inside. Later that night, Anne Maria quits the show, believing that she is now rich, only for Chris to reveal it as a fake. The diamond was made out of cubic zirconia. Anne Maria thought that this diamond was real, but it turns out it was made out of cubic zirconia. She changed her mind and frantically tried to climb out, but she was launched off with Brick. In the Enchanted Freaking Forest, Ezekiel reappears after being trapped in a mine such as demolition. He finally climbs to the top of a mine shaft and pushes aside several pieces of debris, relieved to finally be out. However, lightning trips over Ezekiel and unknowingly knocks Ezekiel right back down into the mine. By Brain versus Brawn, the ultimate showdown, Ezekiel finally escapes the mines and appears with the other mutated monsters that were accidentally unleashed into the arena. Ezekiel jumped in to save Ambria from being a squirrel by knocking his side. In return, he tried to get a kiss from her, only to frighten her, which causes her to scream. Cameron knocks him unconscious with a frying pan, saving Ambria. And that's it. That's his cameos throughout Total Drama Magic Island, but we still have his cameos throughout Total Drama All Stars. Ezekiel reappears in Heroes vs. Villains. He is first seen being dropped from the helicopter by Chris and is introduced as the 14th contestant of the season. Just as Ezekiel is about to fall on the other contestants, Chris states that he was only caring about him being a contestant. The robot then attaches a plunger to Ezekiel's chest and launches him far away from the island. Ezekiel has a I, this is Ezekiel's last prominent episode. And that episode is Zeke and Geek Shop 5, where he crashes Chris's 100 episode party and kidnaps him.
Don't be fucking rude. Are you kidding me?
Intending to take revenge on the host for all the humiliation and abuse he has put him through the past, he takes him to the abandoned mine and ties him up above a vat of toxic waste. As a side effect of being exposed to radioactive waste for so long, Ezekiel can now spit acid. Throughout the episode, he takes out several contestants who have been chefed by Chef Hatchet to look for Chris. After he has captured most of the contestants, he captured Zoe. He captured Zoe Scott, Courtney, Alejandro, and Mike. Mike. He captured Zoe, Scott, Courtney, Alejandro, and Mike. The only contestants who aren't captured by Ezekiel at this point are Cameron and Glenn. Chef and they both arrive along with Chef, the latter attempting to free Chris before being knocked out by Ezekiel. Cameron tries to distract Ezekiel, who spits acid at the roof and causes a cave-in that crushes Cameron and injures him. However, Gwen uses Chef's bazooka to entrap Ezekiel. However, as soon as Gwen frees Cameron, Ezekiel disappears. The exclusive ship clip shows that Ezekiel has managed to escape the mines by digging his way to the phone zone at Boney Island. When he reaches the ground level, he is surrounded by many of the island's mutated creatures and tries to offer them the 100th anniversary cake. Mutants then lift Ezekiel and celebrate with him much to his happiness. And I assume that he wasn't there when the island sunk, so I would assume that he survived. Ezekiel didn't compete or appear at all in the season ridiculous race. However, in A Million Ways to Lose $1 Million, a wanted poster of him before he became Harold appears in the background when the cadets are running with the suitcase in their hands. This seems to suggest that his parents are unaware of what happened to him and are still looking for him. We still got his audition tape in his Camp TV prototype design. In the background, a typical farm can be seen. Ezekiel asks if the camera is on and says that he's gonna back himself in news. He then blows into a kazoo and sees something move in the bushes. In response, he shoots at it with a bow and arrow, but after it screws, he realizes that he just shot his mother by accident. He then runs her worthily apologizing. And here is Ezekiel's Camp TV design. Ezekiel appeared in Camp TV along with the majority of the cast. His design was almost completely different from his current one, bearing a strong resemblance to Noah's current design. Noah was not present at Camp TV, including to the shape of his head, the sweater vest, and a look at his face that implies a snobbish attitude similar to Noah. Despite this, however, the design's pants and shoes are similar to the current Ezekiel's. And that's it. There are trivia, but unlike Eva's video, I will not get into his trivia. I'll only do the trivia when there are very few episodes like Eva was. So that's it. So as for what is Ezekiel doing now? Well, I would assume that his parents finally found him and they are appalled at what Chris did to Ezekiel, and they sue Chris and they win the lawsuit. Then I would assume that they would meet up with some scientists, and Ezekiel goes back to normal, and he can speak and talk again and acts like a normal human. And then I would assume that Ezekiel goes to a normal high school, graduates, goes to a good college, and becomes a CEO, helping people who are like him get the help and treatment that they need. And I would assume that he also would make amends to all the people that he hurt in the past. So, yeah. And here are my thoughts on Ezekiel. He deserved so much better. It's absolutely wild that this happened to him. Starting out from a character who was just really naive and socially inept to a freaking Gollum wannabe, which is absolutely crazy. I am not the hugest fan of Ezekiel. I do think he deserved better, so I have to take a look. And as for where I would rank him, oh my god, let's try to look at the book. There we go. As for where I would rank him, he is at 21st place, meaning that the highest contestant who we've covered so far is still Bridget at 3rd place. In the next video, we will be talking about Jeff. I'm so sorry that I didn't post. I was sick. But with that in mind, thank you all for watching today's video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below on what you think about Ezekiel. And also comment down below on what would you like to see in part 2. If you have any of Queen of What Ifs, if you have any suggestions for custom specials and custom shorts, please let me know. And with that in mind, I will see you all in the next video. Bye!